The Thin Red Line begins with a question that echoes like a warning across the battlefield and the soul. This film was not just a war epic, it was a quiet storm of beauty, violence, and philosophy unleashed by a director who refused to follow any rule. Behind the scenes, the production erupts with vanishing actors, shredded scripts, rewrites happening in real time, and a director who prefers whispers to commands. Today we reveal 20 weird facts about the Thin Red Line that even devoted fans never hear. Fact number 20. The production begins long before the cameras roll, and already the chaos is spreading. Terrence Malick returns to filmmaking after a 20-year absence, and the industry is desperate to see what he will do. But Malick refuses to work like anyone else. He creates an atmosphere where scenes float, shift, and disappear. Actors arrive prepared for dialogue, only to find entire pages removed. What audiences do not know is that soldiers in the cast spend entire days rehearsing scenes that never make it into the call sheets. It is not disorder, it is deliberate mystery. Malick wants raw discovery, not controlled performance. This unusual method shapes the tone of the movie and creates an uneasy energy that seeps into every frame. Fact number 19. Casting for the Thin Red Line becomes a battlefield of its own. The film attracts a massive wave of A-list actors who beg to appear, even if their roles last only seconds, but Malick does something radical. He removes many of them entirely in the editing room. What audiences do not know is that some performers travel across the world, live on location for weeks, and film elaborate monologues only to vanish from the final cut. This is not punishment. It is Malick's ruthless devotion to emotional truth. If a performance does not serve the spirit of the film, he cuts it without hesitation. This creates silence around the production, no leaks, no ego battles, just confusion and awe as careers evaporate in the editing bay. Fact number 18. The shoot in Australia feels peaceful at first. Nature seems untouched and pure, but the environment quickly turns hostile. The heat becomes brutal. Bugs swarm the equipment. The ground itself becomes unstable after rainfall. Crew members battle dehydration and intense exhaustion, while Malick keeps pushing them deeper into the jungle to find the perfect light. What audiences do not know is that many scenes depend entirely on natural sunlight, and the window for filming lasts only minutes. When clouds pass, crews sprint through dense brush hauling cameras before the light collapses again. It is not a normal shoot. It is a living organism controlled by weather, mood, and instinct. This pressure gives the film its dreamlike texture, where every frame feels alive and unpredictable. Fact number 17. Studio executives panic during production because Malick refuses to follow the script they approve. Entire storylines shift without warning. Characters who appear central vanish halfway through the shoot. What audiences do not know is that Malick often sends actors into the jungle with only vague instructions like walk until something speaks to you or find the fear in the trees. This is not improvisation. It is a test of intuition. Executives fear the footage will be unusable. They try to tighten control, but Malick avoids direct confrontation. He simply continues shooting. The chaos becomes a quiet rebellion. And somehow, out of that rebellion emerges a film that feels more like a meditation than a narrative, a film that defies every commercial expectation. Fact number 16. The battle scenes are not created with digital tricks. They are built on physical strain. What audiences do not know is that the explosions you see on screen erupt only a few feet away from the actors. Practical charges blast dirt into the air, and metal fragments tear through palm leaves. The crew uses real heat, real fire, and real debris to achieve the shots. Some actors walk away with burns, cuts, and intense disorientation after repeated takes. Malick wants the fear to be real, not acted, not performed. He wants bodies reacting before minds can process danger. It is a brutal approach, but it gives the battle sequences their staggering authenticity. Every blast on screen carries the weight of real risk and real sweat. Fact number 15. Music becomes one of the most unpredictable aspects of the Thin Red Line. Hans Zimmer creates hours of material before he sees a single frame. Malick asks for sounds that feel like memories drifting through heat and wind. What audiences do not know is that much of the score is shaped on instinct rather than structure. Zimmer builds long meditative tracks, and Malick edits scenes around the emotion rather than the beat. Sometimes music replaces entire pages of spoken dialogue. Instead of words, Malick chooses breath and silence and rhythm. This collaboration is not traditional. It is more like two artists painting without speaking. The result is a soundtrack that feels alive, breathing with the images. Every note becomes a pulse under the violence and sorrow shaping the emotional spine of the movie. Fact number 14. The production relies heavily on real soldiers to ground the film in authenticity. Many of the extras are active or former service members who adapt quickly to the physical demands, but the cast struggles during the earliest training sessions. What audiences do not know is that the boot camp created for the actors strips them of comfort and hierarchy. They sleep on the ground, march through harsh conditions, and carry gear that weighs them down until every step becomes labor. This is not punishment, it is preparation. The goal is to erase performance and reveal instinct. By the time cameras roll, the actors move like a unit. They breathe as one. This transformation changes the emotional tone of every battle scene and creates a realism impossible to fake. Fact number 13. One of the strangest creative decisions arrives during editing. Malick experiments with removing traditional narrative and replacing it with internal reflection. What audiences do not know is that entire conversations filmed with precision become silent in the final cut. You see mouths move, you see tension rise, but no sound comes out. Instead, Malick overlays poetic narration written late at night during long isolation sessions. This shifts the meaning of scenes completely. A moment that was once aggressive becomes sorrowful. A moment that once celebrated unity becomes filled with dread. Editors describe the process as a puzzle, constantly rearranged by instinct. Not logic, not structure. The final film becomes a river of thought, drifting through violence and beauty, as if consciousness itself becomes the storyteller. Fact number 12. The film features one of the broadest ensembles ever assembled for a war movie, but the hierarchy collapses on set. Major stars receive no special treatment. Newcomers stand shoulder to shoulder with veterans. What audiences do not know is that Malick often points the camera at the least expected person. A background actor becomes the emotional center of a moment while a celebrity waits silently outside the frame. This unpredictability forces everyone to stay present. No one knows when the lens will turn toward them. No one can rely on scripted protection. This approach builds tension behind the scenes. Some actors feel lost. Others feel liberated. The result is a film that dissolves ego and replaces it with collective vulnerability where anyone at any moment can become the heart of a scene. Fact number 11. Nature is not a backdrop. It is a character that dictates the rhythm of the shoot, but the landscape becomes dangerous. What audiences do not know is that sudden storms sweep across the set with almost no warning. Equipment sinks into mud, tents collapse under wind, entire shooting days vanish because the ocean surges unexpectedly. Instead of forcing control, Malick embraces the chaos. He sends actors into the rain and captures raw fear and awe. This relationship with nature becomes central to the film, not domination, surrender. The jungle breathes, the sun flickers, the sky shifts without permission. This creates an otherworldly tension in the final cut, where the environment feels alive, watching, judging, and absorbing every human conflict on screen. Fact number 10. The halfway point of the film hides one of the greatest production gambles. Malick redesigns entire sequences during post-production and shifts major emotional beats away from their original structure. What audiences do not know is that whole story arcs vanish and new ones emerge from unused fragments of footage. Characters who once carried the screenplay suddenly fade into the background as quiet soldiers step forward. Editors work in near silence, trying to follow Malick's instinct-driven vision. The result feels like a film discovering itself moment by moment. This is not indecision. It is transformation. And before we move to the next fact, go ahead and like and subscribe because the craziest twists behind this movie are still ahead. Fact number 9, the cinematography becomes a living conversation between Malick and nature. The crew uses lightweight equipment to follow sunlight across valleys and wetlands, but the terrain fights back. What audiences do not know is that camera operators sometimes wade through waist-deep water, holding fragile rigs above their heads. Snakes move through the grass. Sharp volcanic stones tear boots open. Insects swarm faces and lenses. But Malick keeps pushing deeper into untouched areas where the light feels sacred. He asks for images that capture grace inside brutality. Not violence, revelation. The strain on the crew becomes overwhelming at times, but the footage they bring back looks unlike anything seen in a studio war production. Every frame feels carved from the earth itself, shaped by danger and awe. Fact number 8. The emotional intensity of the film grows so heavy that some actors struggle to return to normal life after shooting. They are isolated from home, cut off from familiarity, and pushed into reflection about mortality and loss. What audiences do not know is that Malick seldom offers clear guidance. He allows actors to sink into psychological uncertainty, hoping they find truth in the silence. Some describe the experience as liberating, others find it deeply unsettling. This is not traditional direction, it is immersion. The war on screen bleeds into the minds of the cast, creating lingering effects long after filming ends. The vulnerability captured in their eyes is not performance. It is exhaustion, grief, and the quiet recognition that survival comes with a spiritual cost. Fact number 7. The editing process becomes a legendary ordeal. Malick collects an enormous amount of footage and shapes it into a meditative structure that defies standard pacing. What audiences do not know is that editors work through endless reels, searching for emotional resonance rather than plot progression. Scenes that appear essential in the script vanish completely, others that seem insignificant bloom into pivotal moments. Malick often rearranges the order of events to mirror shifting memory instead of strict chronology. This approach frustrates studios who crave clarity, but Malick is not building a traditional war epic. He is crafting a prayer made of images. The final rhythm feels like breath slowing and quickening in response to fear, wonder, and the vast weight of human fragility. Fact number 6. The portrayal of violence in The Thin Red Line stands apart from other war films because Malick refuses to glamorize destruction. The brutality you see on screen is filmed with stillness rather than spectacle. What audiences do not know is that many violent scenes are filmed in a single lingering take. No fast cuts, no heroic framing. Actors must hold their emotional truth through the entire moment without relief. This slow observational style becomes physically and mentally draining. Bodies collapse into mud, smoke fills lungs, real exhaustion becomes part of the imagery. Malick wants viewers to feel the spiritual weight of conflict, not the thrill, not triumph, just the quiet devastation beneath the chaos. The result is a portrayal of war that feels hauntingly honest. Fact number 5. The relationships between characters shift constantly because Malick reshapes emotional arcs during filming without warning. Actors arrive on set expecting one dynamic only to discover their characters now carry deeper wounds or quieter conflicts. What audiences do not know is that Malick often observes interactions off camera and then builds new scenes inspired by real behavior. He watches how actors react under pressure, how they walk, how they stare into the distance. Those natural moments become seeds for new story beats. This technique blurs the line between character and performer. The cast becomes emotionally exposed because nothing feels fixed. This instability creates a raw authenticity in the final film. The bonds and fractures you see on screen grow from lived experience, not scripted certainty. Fact number 4. The film challenges traditional depictions of heroism by leaning heavily into vulnerability. Soldiers tremble, hesitate, and question their purpose. But this emotional depth emerges from an unexpected creative source. What audiences do not know is that Malick often removes external noise on set and creates long stretches of silence before rolling the camera. Actors stand in stillness, listening to wind insects, water, and distant echoes of gunfire. This quiet atmosphere forces them inward. They confront their own fears and conflicts before performing the scene. The resulting vulnerability becomes central to the film, not heroism, humanity. This approach transforms the narrative into a meditation on survival and sacrifice. It is not an action film, it is a study of the human soul under relentless pressure. Fact number 3. The film contains some of the most visually striking shots in modern cinema, but achieving them requires brutal endurance. Crews carry equipment up steep hills for hours only to wait for a few seconds of perfect light. What audiences do not know is that Malick often changes an entire setup at the last minute because he senses a shift in the atmosphere. If the wind feels wrong or the shadows seem too heavy, he scraps the shot entirely. The constant physical labor drains the team, yet something remarkable happens. The hardship creates unity. Everyone becomes part of the same struggle. The exhaustion you see in the soldiers' faces is mirrored in the crew behind the camera. The authenticity becomes undeniable. So, fact number 2. The film features a deeply spiritual perspective, but this emerges organically rather than through planned symbolism. What audiences do not know is that Malick spends long hours alone in the wilderness each day before shooting. He observes animals, water movement, and light patterns. These solitary sessions influence the tone of the scenes filmed afterward. He brings that quiet introspection back to the actors and asks them to feel connected to the land, not separated from it. This approach shifts the emotional core of the movie. Instead of focusing solely on conflict, it explores existence itself, life and death, beauty and terror. The film becomes a meditation disguised as a war epic. Viewers sense something deeper, even if they cannot define it. Fact number 1, the final cut of The Thin Red Line surprises everyone because Malick rewrites the movie through editing. Entire characters who appear dominant in early dailies vanish. Others rise from the background and carry the emotional message. What audiences do not know is that Malick edits based on feeling rather than logic. He listens to the rhythm of the footage until a hidden narrative reveals itself. This method shocks the actors who expect certain arcs to remain central, but Malick is not concerned with expectation. He is searching for truth. The final version becomes a mosaic of memory, emotion, and instinct, a vision of war filtered through reflection rather than chronology. It is unlike any studio film of its time. Bonus fact: the most surprising secret lies buried in the unused footage. Malick reportedly films enough material to create several entirely different movies. There are alternate storylines, alternate emotional centers, and entire battles never shown to the world. What audiences do not know is that Malick briefly considers releasing multiple cuts each with a different perspective, like shifting viewpoints in a novel. The idea never moves forward because the studio fears confusion, yet the possibility lingers. Somewhere in archives, there exists a hidden universe of The Thin Red Line, a version where different characters rise and different truths emerge. The film, is only one path among many, a single heartbeat in a much larger unseen creation. The Thin Red Line endures because it refuses to follow the rules of war cinema. It shows conflict not as spectacle, but as a fragile intersection of fear, nature, and memory. Its legacy grows stronger each year as new audiences discover its quiet power. If you enjoyed this journey into the unseen world behind the film, make sure to like, subscribe, and join us again for more hidden stories that reshape the way we watch movies.